Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be doing a index review today. We're going to be doing the Adeptus Mechanicus. A couple of reasons for that. Number one, really cool faction, something that I think a lot of people are collecting or want to collect. Got some really cool units. Also, they only sort of had a recent reboot just before these came out. What was it, about a year probably before these came out? So it'll be interesting to see whether a lot's changed. Obviously a decent amount changed because of 8th edition, but have they sort of realised anything was wrong with the original book? I mean, from what I've seen, from what people have told me, it was fairly balanced, pretty well written book, but obviously it'll be interesting to see if there's any big changes. And finally, because if you haven't seen it, for my Tale of a Gamer, the year-long project I'm working on, if you haven't seen that, have a look at the video and I'll explain it all on there. I am doing Adeptus Mechanicus for one of my armies, along with Black Templars, Primaris Marines. So another cool reason to go through is just because I'm going to be collecting them, so it'd be interesting to have a look, see what units look good, and go from there. So let's have a bit of a look. I will be doing other ones. I have the Index Imperium 2 and I have Index Xenos 1. I think it's 1 with the Eldar and the Necrons, etc. in it. So I will be doing an index review for all the armies in those two books, and preferably some from other indexes if I decide to purchase them. But right now I've only got these because these are the armies I have, so it makes a lot of sense to have these. So, where are the Adeptus Mechanicus? Page 62. Okay, so here we go. So this is the Adeptus Mechanicus part of the index. So we've got some cool background about their quest for knowledge, how they interact with the Imperium, Forge Worlds, things like that. So that's on that page there. But what we really want to get stuck into is the army list. So their keyword is Forge World, and you just replace the Forge World with whichever Forge World you're doing. Two cool things about that. Number one, easy to organise. You're from Forge World Riser or Mars. It's easy to just put that in there. The other thing that's cool about that is that suggests that maybe they'll make some special rules for specific Forge Worlds and certain maybe specific units for Forge Worlds. So I think that would be obviously really cool. So hopefully that'll be something that comes along. Okay, so abilities. So they have the Canticles of the Omnissiah still. And at the start of each battle round, pick which canticle in the Omnissiah from the table below is in effect for the duration of the battle round. The same canticle may not be picked twice per battle. You can roll, but obviously you're going to pick. Now it is cool that you can pick them. It gives you a certain amount of control. You can even tactically arrange your army around that. I only want a certain amount of shooting, and then I want a certain amount of combat. And I'll use the shooting protocols for a couple of turns, then the combat protocols, etc. So, just to go through them, number one is you can reroll failed morale tests for affected units. So obviously reroll morale checks, big in the new edition, so that's really good start. Roll d6 for each enemy unit that is within 1 inch of any affected units. On the roll of a 6, the unit being rolled for suffers d3 mortal wounds. So that's one to use later in the game when everyone's in combat and grabbing objectives and it's all constricted around certain areas, and then you can roll a d6, and you know it's only on a roll 6, but it is d3 mortal wounds, and you know if the enemy's got 6 units left, you average 1, you may be lucky to get 2. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's not great, but it's not too bad. Chant of the Remorseless Fist. You can reroll any failed hit rolls of 1 for affected units in the fight phase. So reroll 1s to hit in the fight phase is pretty solid. You've then got Shroud Psalm. Affected units gain the bonus to their armor saves as if they were in cover. Units already in cover are unaffected. That's pretty good. So all your units are effectively in cover for a turn. So if you're facing a Tau army and either you're going to advance and try and get in combat with them, or you just want the advantage in the game, you can make your whole army or most of your army as if they're in cover for a turn, which is fantastic when you think about it. That might let you outshoot the Tau for a turn, and then they're always trying to catch up with you for the rest of the game. So that's cool. Effective units have +1 strength. It's probably the weakest one. Mechanicus are generally a mid-range army. They're not really there for combat. And the ones that are in combat are often the Castellan robots, who already have good strength anyway. So, you know, not too great, but every bonus counts. And then finally, you can reroll failed hit rolls of 1 for effective units in the shooting phase. So again, like the earlier one with the combat phase, it's all good. It's all good. Nice, solid rerolls of 1s, like having hatred. So that's pretty cool. Got some war gear list here, but we'll go through all that as we go through. So some cool art here of the Castellan robots with their overlord or master. So this is the main army list starting for Adeptus Mechanicus. You have Belisarius Call, who obviously got introduced to us during the Gathering Storm background. He's power 13, so obviously he's pretty powerful. Movement of 6, weapon skill and ballistic skill 2+, strength 5, toughness 6, 8 wounds, 4 attacks, and leadership 9, 2+ save. So one of the better stat lines in the game, unless you're going to go crazy and have a Primarch or whatever it is. 2s to hit on shooting and combat, toughness 6, 8 wounds, leadership 9, 2+ save. Just pretty great. He's armed with an Arc Scourge, an Omniscion Axe, a Solar Atomizer, and a Macandrite Hive. Only one of these models may be taken for army, so standard stuff. So to go through his weapons, the Solar Atomizer is 12 inches, Assault D3, Strength 10, AP -4, Damage D3. The target is within half range, it does damage D6. So that's cool. I mean, it's not going to happen too much because that's 6-inch range, but the main weapon's good enough as it is. 12 inches, Assault D3. I mean, you're hitting on 2s at Strength 10, AP4, Damage D3. So I mean, you get 3 shots and you're hitting on 2s. You can do some good damage. That's pretty cool. The Arc Scourge is a combat weapon, ×2 strength, so it'll be Strength 10, AP -1, Damage 1. When attacking a vehicle, it has Damage D3, so it gives you some incentive for him to go in and wipe out some vehicles. But again, although the Damage 1 and the AP -1, isn't that impressive, the Strength 10 is fantastic, and there's no -1 to hit or strikes last or anything like that, so it's a good weapon. The Macandrite Hive is strength of the user, AP dash, damage 1. Each time Belisarius Call fights, he can make 2d6 additional attacks with this weapon. So it's more of a horde killer, but 2d6 attacks, you roll 7, you're hitting on 2s, so you get 6 hits, you're winning on 3s against the average thing, so you get 4 wounds. They get the full save, but you're still knocking off probably 1.5 Marines extra a turn. It doesn't sound amazing, but that's an average roll as well, and fighting Marines who are obviously reasonably tough. So it's a decent little bonus. And the Omniscion Axe is melee weapon, +1 strength, so strength 6, -2 AP, and damage 2. So nice and solid. It's got the damage of just 2, which is nice. It's consistent. I know you can get the 3 with the D3, but having 2 a turn every turn's good. But yeah, so he's got a variety of combat weapons that you can use for whatever he's facing, then a pretty good shooting weapon. He gets Canticles of the Omniscion. He also gets Archmagos, which means you can add or subtract 1 when rolling for Canticles of the Omniscion. So obviously that's not really relevant because you don't need to roll for them, you can just pick them. So there's a 5% invulnerable save, which is nice though, to go with those 8 wounds and 2+ save. At the beginning of each of your turns, Belisarius Call heals D3 wounds. So he also gets D3 wounds back a turn, so that's 2 average a turn. So if you want to kill him, you're going to have to be taking off more than 2 wounds a turn, because he's going to averagely get that back anyway. So that's pretty awesome, makes him very survivable. Lord of Mars, you can reroll any hit rolls in the shooting phase for friendly Mars units within 6 inches. So that's Lord of Mars, so he has to rule the Mars army there. So if you're going to take Belisarius Call, it would seem appropriate to be part of a Mars army. One, because that's the cloak he's got, the red, although you could paint it differently, but mainly for that rule. Reroll any hit rolls in the shooting phase for units within 6 inches. You could surround him quite easily with a unit of Castellan robots and a couple of units of what are they called? The I forgot forgot what they're called now, the Decimators, I think those Destroyers, is it? The little wheeled guys with the grav cannons, come up with what they're called. Oh, I don't know why I'm guessing, because they'll be in here somewhere. What they're called? Breachers and Destroyers, yeah, the Cathrons. And the firepower from those 3 units re-roll to hit would be horrible. So that's pretty cool. Master of Machines. At the end of your movement phase, Cool can repair a single friendly Mechanicus model within 3 inches, but not himself. That model gets D3 wounds back. So in that same scenario, he could heal the Skitarii robots as well. So he gets wounds back himself, he'd give wounds back to the robots, and he'd get that bubble of rerolls to hit. And he's pretty good in combat, he's a bit of a tank, so he's pretty awesome. I imagine, though, he's going to be fairly pricey. Let's have a look. No, Mystorian. No, also gone past it. Or have I gone past it? Okay. Oh no, they're behind other pages of artwork. That's why that confused me. Where is he? Belisarius Cool is 250 points. To be fair, my thoughts on him is he's well worth it. 250 points for that, for how tough he is, how good he is in a fight, and those bonuses. I think you may well want to take him, although you probably have to do a Mars Forge roll, because I think without that rerolls to hit, that makes him maybe worth 250 points, but you're stretching yourself, whereas with that rerolls, he's well worth it. So, interesting there. So we've got the Tech Priest Dominus. So this is sort of like your lesser HQ if you're running 1500 points or something like that, or you just don't want to take Cool, because obviously he is a big chunk of your army, especially if you're taking a knight. Him and the knight are going to be 750, 800 points between them. So he has movement 6, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 2+, strength toughness 4, 5 wounds, attacks 3, leadership 8, 2+ save. It's a pretty solid stat line, nearly the equal of a the Space Marine and Primaris captain. So he's not soft. He comes armed with an Ominous Iron Axe, Volk Blaster, and Macro Stubber. So let's have a look. So the Macro Stubber is 12 inches, pistol 5, strength 4, AP dash, damage 1. So pretty light little weapon there. The Volk Blaster is 24 inches, heavy 3, strength 6, AP dash, damage 1. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for this weapon, the target suffers a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. So that's pretty good. 3 shots, strength 6, and you might get a mortal wound. It's pretty decent. The Ominous Iron Axes we've already covered. And then you can give him an Eradication Ray or a Phosphor Serpent. So the Phosphor Serpent is 18 inches, Assault 1, Strength 5, AP -1, Damage 1. Units attacked by this weapon do not gain any bonus to the saving throws for being in cover. So it's okay. And the Eradication Ray, this is the big one. So 24 inches, heavy D3, Strength 6, AP -2, Damage 1. Attacks this weapon that target enemies at 8 inches or less are resolved to AP of -4 and damage D3. So the closer you get, the more nasty it is, but it's a pretty good weapon anyway. Canticles of the Messiah, 5+ invulnerable save, Master of Machines, so you can do that D3 lost wounds like Cool can. Masterwork Bionics. At the beginning of each of your turns, he can get D3 wounds back like Cool as well. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Then Lord of the Machine Cult, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 in the shooting phase for friendly Forge World units within 6 inches. So that's actually really important, because really the Tech Priest Dominus has slightly worse weapons and a decently worse stat line than Cool. But then he basically has all his rules, or all the rules you really want. The only extra one Cool's really got is that +1 or -1 on the Canticles table, but obviously you can pick, so you're not going to roll anyway. How much is he? 125 points. Does he have to pay for his weapons, is the question. Ominous Iron Axe, Volk Blaster, and Macro Stubber. So the Volk Blaster's 8 points, the Macro Stubber is 2 points, that's 10, and the Omnis Cyanax is 0. So he's basically, he's 135 points, but he's basically half what Call is. So I'd very much recommend taking a Tech Priest Dominus for all the rules and stat line he gives you, and he is an epic model. So fluff-wise, he's awesome. You can have 2 of him for the price of him, pretty much. And then combat-wise, you're as good, because 2 of them are as good as Cool, if not better. And then you get all his rules twice over. So Tech Priest Dominus seems to be the way to go. You can have a Tech Priest Engine Seer, which obviously used to be part of the Guard. 6-inch move, 4+ weapon skill, abyss skill, strength 4, toughness 4, wounds 4, attacks 2, leadership 8, and 3+ save. So pretty much a marine stat line bar his wounds. He has an Omniscient Axe, which we covered, a last pistol and a servo arm. So the last pistol is 12 inches, pistol 1, strength 3, AP dash, damage 1. And the servo arm though is ×2 strength, so it'd be strength 8, -2 AP, damage 3, so 3 guaranteed damage. Then each servo arm can only be used to make 1 attack each time this model fights. When a model attacks with this weapon, you must subtract 1 from the hit roll. So that scales it back a little bit. The servo arm looked really good, but now it's -1 to hit, and you can only do it once. So Bionics gives him a 6+ invulnerable save, and he can do D3 lost wounds on a vehicle as well. So that's pretty good, though, because you could spam the Engine Seer potentially, and he's only 40 points. I doubt he has to pay for his last pistol. Does he have to pay for the servo arm? 12 points. So he's actually 52 points. So he's 52 points, but you know, you could have a couple of these and a Tech Priest Dominus, and have, you know, one of these with the onagers, him with the Castellan robots, and one of these with one of the Grav and Destroyers or something like that, and just heal those wounds every turn. Makes them really tough to kill, almost kind of Necron-esque. So he might be worth taking potentially, although like I said, I'd probably just invest in 2 Tech Priest Dominus if you want to have more. Okay, so we're on to troops. So you've got Catphron Breachers. So these are the wheeled guys I was talking about earlier, and I could remember their name. So movement's 5 inches, weapon skill, bliss skills 4+, strength 5, toughness 5, 3 wounds, 2 attacks, leadership 7, and a 3+ save. So pretty stubborn. Toughness 5 with 3+, toughness 5 with 3 wounds and 3+ save. 2 attacks suggest don't get them in combat overly. Leadership 7's pretty standard. You really probably want a hero around them if possible. Okay, so you can add more breaches. You can add up to additional 9, so you can technically have 12 of them. It's pretty cool. So they come with a heavy arc rifle and arc claw. So the heavy arc rifle is 36 inches, heavy 2, strength 6, -2 AP, D3 wounds. When attacking a vehicle, this weapon has a damage of D6. So that's pretty good. 2 shots, hitting on 4s, it's okay. Get the near someone who's making them re-roll. Strength 6 is okay, -2, D3, and D6 against a vehicle. So yeah, I mean, as much as they might find it hard to hurt some of the bigger vehicles, they can quickly strip wounds if they do get through with that D6 wounds. The Arc Claw is melee, +1 strength, -1 AP, damage 1, and when attacking the vehicle it does D3. It's a pretty cool weapon, but like I said, I don't really want to get these guys in combat with 2 attacks, especially as their shooting attack seems to be better anyway. You can take a Torsion Cannon instead, which is 24 inches, heavy 1, strength 8, -4 AP, and D6 damage. So it's a better strength, better AP, and better damage than the arc rifle, but it's only 1 shot and it's got a 24, not 36-inch range, and it might be more expensive. We'll look at that in a minute. So it does seem probably better, but it depends. We are hitting on 4s. Hydraulic Claw, ×2 strengths, that'll be strength 10, -1 AP, damage D3. When attacking with this weapon, you must subtract 1 from the hit roll. So again, it's nice to have those D3 wounds, it's nice to be strength 10, but -1 to hit means they hit on 5s. With only 2 attacks, that makes them pretty unreliable. They also have Canticles, the Omniscient. They have a 6+ invulnerable save, never know, might come in handy. And models in this unit can only advance D3 inches, but do not suffer penalties for firing heavy weapons and moving. So that's cool, especially for these ones who are more combat based than the destroyers, which we'll go through in a second. They can move up, because they can at least fight in combat, even if they're not very good. Move up, shoot, 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 combat. So that's decent. They're okay. They're okay. So, Cataphrone Breachers, how much are you? So 35 points each. So for the 3, that's 105. But you're going to have to put weapons on them. So the Arc Claw is only 4, so that's cool. Heavy Arc Rifle. Somewhere around here. What is it? Oh, there it is. 18 points. So, so 18 plus 4 is 22. And they were 35 each. They're now 57 each. So they're going to be about 171 points. They're slightly more expensive than they used to be, I think, but only by about 2 points each. So not a big advancement. And the fact you can choose your canticles and stuff like that makes them pretty good. What about that Torsion Cannon? So that's 22 compared to 18, so it's 4 more points. The problem is that 4 plus ballistic skill. I think I would go with the Torsion Cannon if you can find a way to get them a reroll or something like that. Because it is the better weapon for me, probably. Yeah. Not by a lot though, so it is pretty close. Both options are pretty solid. So we'll go on to the Cataphrone Destroyers. These are the guys who were probably better in the last edition, so we'll see whether they still are, because they were dedicated to shooting rather than trying to do a little bit of both. So they have the same stat line as the guys above, apart from they only have 1 attack and they have a 4 plus save. So that's quite a difference straight away. Again, you start with unit 3 and you can build up to 12. They come with a Plasma Culverin and a Phosphor Blaster. So the Plasma Culverin is 36 inches, heavy D6, this is standard and supercharged. Then standard is strength 7, -3, damage 1. Supercharged is strength 8 and damage 2. But on a roll of a 1, the bearer is slain. It does say after all the shots are resolved, but obviously these guys are pretty expensive and they have 3 wounds each. So yeah, if it's the last turn of the game, or you've got 2 left both on 1 wound, so it's worth the risk maybe. But generally I wouldn't recommend supercharging. Phosphor Blaster is 24 inches, rapid fire 1, strength 5, -1 AP, damage 1, and no one gets any benefits being cover. So it's a pretty cool backup weapon. You can replace the Phosphor Blaster with the Cognis Flamer, which is 8 inches, assault d6, automatically hits, strength 4, AP dash, damage 1. So just a flamer, basically. But when firing Overwatch, you roll 2 dice when determining how many attacks it makes. So it can be quite worth it, but it's quite situational. It's one of those, if your enemy's going to be Tyranids and you know there's going to be hordes, you could put these guys out in front of the hordes and know when they charge, if there's 3 of them left, they'll get 66 flamer hits, which obviously could be horrendous for something like a Gaunt unit. So it's certainly worth considering, but it's quite specific, whereas the Phosphor Blaster's pretty solid against most things. So, and then finally you've got the Heavy Grav Cannon, which is 30 inches, heavy 5, strength 5, AP -3, damage 1. If the target has a save characteristic of 3 plus or better, this weapon has a damage characteristic of D3. So Grav Cannons, like they were in the last one, last edition, very much something to take on things with good armor saves. They've got 5 shots each, so that's 15 shots. They're hitting on 4s, still 7-8 hits, plus if you can get a reroll from somewhere. Strength 5 solid, it's not brilliant, but it's solid. The AP -3 is good, and then the D3 damage, just pick your targets and you'll be on D3 damage probably most of the time, especially with that 30-inch range. Again, Canticles on the Omnissiah, 6 plus invulnerable save. This time they can only advance D3 inches, but they don't suffer a penalty for firing a heavy weapon after moving. So these guys are always on a 4 plus, which is cool. So let's see how many points these dudes are. So they're destroyers.